Good morning, and what is going on, all you profitable stylists out there and all you future profitable stylists out there? We're talking about the shocking truth about in-person education versus online education. It's something that I get asked all the time on a weekly basis. Do I need to come in and do a hands-on? Do you have an online video? Can I learn it online? And today I've got Carmelina with us as a special guest. She is from the SFTB podcast. So Carmelina, good morning. Thank you for joining us today on Two Guys Chat. What's
Good
going on?
morning. How's
Good morning.
everything going?
It's going good. You know, it's always fun to have you on. You always ask me some crazy questions, and but they're very well thought out all the time. So I always appreciate it. I know the comments that
Awesome.
we get are very positive. People like it when you're on because you somehow derail me off topic, and it's not fun for me, but it's fun for everybody else watching.
Yeah.
So what do you got? What are we doing today?
So,
Why the shocking truth about online education versus in-person education?
so I got four different kind of categories to talk about to see, like, is online better than in person, or the benefits of one versus the other, or a combination of both. Like, I guess it depends on the learning styles.
I would agree with that. I think it really does depend. Each one, yeah. I favor. Well, I don't know actually.
Sometimes I like both because I like watching and seeing, but then I like to put my hands in things, or I just want to like be there, and you can ask 100,000 questions if you needed to.
That's what I'm kind of thinking about it. Yeah, I don't
So
know if
it's both.
necessarily one's going to be better than the other. I think each one is going to have their special place depending on the situation. All right, yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. All right, so you got four categories. Well, all right, so let's do this. What you got?
Okay. How about the hands-on crisis? Like, you can't learn tension through a screen. Like, that's impossible. But then there's also modern day cameras that show like great detail, and you could physically see what's going on. What do you
Okay,
think about
okay.
that? I
Oh,
mean, it's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. Well, look, we are online right now teaching something. We're talking about something and people are starting to learn. You could go to a TED Talk in person and you can watch it too. And there's a special kind of energy that happens when you're when you're around other people. And you may be feeling tired or you may be feeling extra hyper. If you're extra tired, it's hard to focus. If you're extra hyper, it's hard to focus. But if you're around other people, if you're tired and you're sitting next to a hyperspaz, it's either going to make you mental and check out completely, or it's going to
Yeah,
raise your energy. Conversely, if you're spazzing out and everybody else around you is calm, it's going to help you focus, and it's going to help you, not be as distracted. When you're in person, you're going to really be able to see what's going on.
yeah.
But can you really see what's going on? Because it really depends on proximity. If you're close enough to the action, then you can really see what's happening. But if you're watching it on screen, then you get to see the camera is like really focused and zoomed in. So the camera gets to see exactly what's happening when we're like with hair extensions, for example. This is a great example.
Yeah.
With the camera, when we're filming, it's always the camera's on the bond and it's showing every single thing what's happening to the bond. It's not showing what's happening outside, the way you're standing, the way your arm is positioned, the way your hand is positioned. But it is showing what's happening to the bond. When you're in person, you get
You
to
can
see the body
see.
position and the hand position and everything else, but now my hand is in the way. So you may not be able to see what I'm doing inside with my fingers. You may not actually be able to see what's happening to the bond. So both,
Has
there's a
their
pro and con
pluses
to
and
both.
minus. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a plus and minus to both. Okay, okay, I like this. I like that. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. It's kind of like when you're at a game or when you're at a concert, you know, you're watching the field, what's happening, but then you got the big screen to show you,
What's happening
you
up
know, zoomed
front?
in the action. Yeah, okay, okay, okay. I like that. Yeah, sure. Um,
Yeah, that's
I
kind of
guess it
cool.
depends on I guess it depends on what you're learning. You know, if you're watching a speech, do you really need to be zoomed in and see what's happening on screen? Then that's really
Probably
more like
not
a
so
podcast
much,
situation.
but yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's the way I would answer that. I guess
it's situational.
it is situational.
Because,
I
like you said, like sometimes it's good to see up and close and what's really going on, but then it's also good to be there in person because, you can see body position or like, tension you can't pull or do on a camera.
the tension thing, that's one of the things I argue the most about. And so I usually tell people if you want to learn something and you want to start with the online, start with the online. There's nothing
That's
wrong with that.
fine.
You can always
Hmm.
come back in for an in-person later on at a later date, and we
Correct.
can work together to tweak and fine-tune what you're doing. You can
Yes.
kind of do that through camera work as well, but yeah, there is a certain thing. A lot of times I'll see somebody do the online education and they're struggling, and all it is just their hand position needed to be adjusted slightly, and I can physically take their hand and adjust it, or
Right.
they're just slightly standing off center and I
Uh-huh.
can literally just push them or pull them one step over to the left or to the right, and it completely repositions their entire focus, and it's that small little minute
Little
fraction
things.
that you can't get online. But when you're teaching a big class of people and you're doing it in person, I can only focus on you. I can only focus on Bernard. I can only focus on one person at
Yeah,
a time.
like one at a time.
So if there's a dozen people in class, I'm
Mhm.
not going to get to the 12th person until way later. And by then, we may forget about the 12th person. They might be hiding in the back somewhere. Um, so, yeah, okay. All right. I got you. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
So that kind of brings me to the next question because, like, online students develop bad habits and versing, like, they record themselves so they can see, so they can better correct themselves.
That's what one of the things I was just talking about. So, for
Right.
example, if you're out of state, so here's one nice thing about online learning. Here's a really strong positive to online learning. I'm in the Chicagoland area inside of Illinois. I'm in the northwestern part of Illinois.
Yes.
The Bernard is in New Orleans. He's in Louisiana, but he's in New Orleans. So, physically speaking, if you're in Wisconsin, you're about 2 hours away. If you're in Mississippi, you're a few hours away. To get to him or I. If you're in Michigan, if you're in Ohio, if you're in the Midwestern
Yeah, that's
states,
a good point. Mhm.
you're talking about like a 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 hour drive. And now if you're on the coastal states trying to get to us from the East Coast or the West Coast, forget about it. It's a whole freaking day of driving. It's a few hours of flight. There's a lot of logistical things involved, right?
Right. And at least you
But
could see online education, if you couldn't make it.
so yeah, I could do a live stream like we are right now, live streaming, and
Mhm.
in real time we can spend time together doing something, and I can observe and watch what you're doing, and I can direct you like that, or even better, or not. I shouldn't say even better. Even another option, which we do a lot, is people are busy and they don't necessarily have time to
That's
schedule
true too.
during
Mhm.
the day to do something. But what you could do is while you're
Mhm.
working on a client, you could just have somebody hold your phone, or you can take your phone and record yourself, and then you can send me or you could send Bernard your video clip, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is.
Yeah, because then you could spot mistakes or, maybe they're doing a good job, like you
Yeah,
can do that until they have that time to be like, hey, I want to come in. I want to physically do this.
yeah, yeah. or in some cases you may not have to ever come in, because
Yeah.
you can
Some
watch
people
the
learn
online
better.
education,
Mhm.
you can record yourself, you can send it in, we can review it, we can send it back to you and say, do this instead, do that instead. We can make notations, and you
Yeah.
can keep recording yourself over and over and over. You could do that during the day, you could do that at night, you could do that on the weekends. uh, you can do it at your own pace, and now you've got yourself recorded. You have your own educational library, volume of library, or your own season of education, if you will, and you got all your little episodes per whatever category of education you're learning. And
Right.
now you can always go back. It's a knowledge base, and you can go back and see your progression and see what you're doing. That's something that we do a lot of too, and logistically speaking, it works. Just, we do have people that drive in or fly in. We have that often.
I've
uh,
seen that a lot. Mhm.
we do have people that I do a crap ton of in person. I really do. It's
Right.
wild how much in person I do. But I do have a large segment of people that will send in video as well, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool. So yeah, I see. I can see what you're saying. People can record themselves and then have their own library afterwards. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that's cool.
It depends on your learning styles. Mhm.
It does. It does. I can agree with that.
I got another category, and it's about the attention problem.
Wait, what?
I got the other category is about the attention problems. Now, are you going to be a problem? You said, wait, what? What's going on?
I'm gonna be the whole
Do
problem.
you learn from distraction-free classroom or the the like punishing people that learn at different levels? Like, oh, I can learn, let's say, like 20 minutes of this, then I need a break, and 20 minutes there or something. Like people could be, their attention span is not that long because they can't like sit 8 hours and then they're just like their brain shuts off.
It is an issue. It definitely, focus is definitely an issue. And I know I do that to you all the time. Anytime you say anything about paying attention, I always mess with you like that.
And then it
The
turned into the Hulkamania.
it's it it it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's something that we struggle with a lot. So, for example, here's a great example that can speak to your point.
Okay.
In Illinois specifically, I mean in a lot of states as well, but in Illinois, we literally just had our renewal year. So you
Oh
have to
yeah.
come in and get continuing education hours. You have to sit online or in class in person, and you need to get your hours in order to be eligible to renew your license from the state board. With that said, I've had it in class where some people are just showing up because they have to get the hours. They don't care about learning anything. I've literally had some people fall asleep for an hour during the class, and they're hunched over in their chair,
I've
you
seen
know?
someone just dancing.
And then I've seen some people, they're just dancing because they are literally bored out of their freaking mind.
Right, because they need hours, and let's say they're like not, because you can do hair esthetician or whatever it may be. So maybe they need hours for, if they're estheticians or something, and then they're kind of learning about hair, but they're just like, because they don't really do it.
Yeah, okay, true, right. They may be taking a class that doesn't even apply to what they specialize in. They're just there for the hour requirements. So they're
Yeah,
either bored out of their mind and they're bouncing off the wall, or they're bored out of their mind and they're passed out.
yeah,
The,
true.
so it sucks. Now, if you do online learning, you can, and especially if the online learning is built in a structure that is modular, meaning you can do the first segment and that's 30 minutes, then you can save your progress, you can walk away and come back an hour later, do the
Yeah,
second
true.
module, that's the second segment of that module, and that's an hour. And then you could take a break and come back tomorrow, and then each segment per each module is broken down and it saves your progress. Then yeah, then that's great. But there is also online programs that are designed where you are stuck sitting there for 4 hours staring at a screen, and
Yeah.
you can't fast forward anything. It's
And you
going at
can't
whatever
pause. Yeah.
pace it's going at, and you can't pause anything. You just got to sit there and be like, you see the sentence on screen, and you're like, all right, the answer is A. But then the narrator, it has to read at a certain pace, at a very monotone voice, and you're sitting there
True.
going, oh, for the love of God, the answer is A. The answer is A.
It's almost like when you watch those kids' cartoons, like for instance, like Dora the Explorer or something. It was like, oh, bridge, this, that. It's like, okay, it's over there. Like, come on. But they have to do it so the kid thinks like, oh yeah. So I get
It's a
it. I get
challenge. That
it.
pacing, that's what we refer to as pacing and
Yeah.
reading the room. So reading the room and adjusting your pacing is vitally the main difference between a good instructor and a great instructor. A good instructor can pass along the knowledge and give the information, present the information. A great instructor will read the room. So if I'm speaking kind of fast and I'm being very hyper and I'm like, and I'm seeing everybody sitting there going, what in the holy hell? I
Right.
need
You
to
have to
then,
slow it down.
I got to slow myself down. I got to breathe. And I gotta speak in a more slower presentation. Then I can see everybody going from this to going, yeah. But then if I'm seeing everybody going like this, then I got to sit there and I got to hyper myself back up again.
Yeah.
So it's always like a roller coaster. You're always going up and down, up and down, up and down. If you're throwing too much science, you got to throw in a couple of jokes, or you got to dumb it down a little bit, because some
Yeah.
people just don't understand all that science. Conversely, if you're
Exactly.
dumbing it down and you're just talking regular, and everybody's sitting there going, yeah, yeah, I know that, yeah, I know that, then you got to flex a little bit and you got to throw some science in there. So somebody's going like, wait, what? What did you just say? It's like, see, I do know a few things.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying it, but then there's a very delicate balance in there too, between sounding like a jackass because you're trying to be
Done.
smart than everybody, like you're trying to show off that you know more things and you're smarter than everybody, versus establishing your position, your authority, that you are the educator and you are in charge of that classroom and it's your classroom. So
Yeah.
you're going to run this ship the way you are, and you're going to steer it, and you're going to get
Yes,
everybody.
you have to drive it. Hmm.
Yeah, everybody's on board for the ride. So you are the captain of your ship.
Okay, that brings me to we kind of said something about it, about pause and rewind means that like maybe you're truly not listening versus different learning speeds, which different speeds that needs like different pacing, like you kind of were saying.
Well, here's another thing. Repetitiveness, repetition is the best way to commit something to memory, whether it's physical memory or whether it's mental memory.
Yeah.
There is a statistic that says you got to repeat something approximately 7 times for you to be able to
Wait,
retain.
what?
Well,
Oh yeah, I think I know about repeating. My family repeats a lot of things.
and that's the whole thing. So there is also another crazy statistic. Whatever
Wow.
we're talking about right now, if you don't repeat it and if you don't apply it within 24 to 48 hours, you literally will lose 70% of the knowledge. And then every day after that, you'll lose an additional 10 to 15%. And by a week later, you've completely forgotten everything you just learned. So if you don't do somehow, if you don't use or do and apply what you just learned today
Hmm.
within today to tomorrow, you're going to lose a lot of it. So
That's true.
in person, we have to, if we don't repeat ourselves when we say something, every segment of our outline within our education, there is a point in there for the educator to remind themselves that they have to review the segment that we just went through and what we just went over. So you're
Mhm.
constantly saying what you want the person to learn, showing what you want the person to learn, giving the information for what you want the person to learn, and then you're reviewing and repeating all of that to help that person learn. That's the in-person. When you're online, you don't have that opportunity to do it. You got to record yourself, and you
No.
got to record yourself that one time, and that's it. It's recorded. So giving the person the opportunity to pause and rewind. What's kind of nice about that is sometimes when you're in person, you're listening to the person talk and you're saying something, and then you're like, I don't want to
Mhm.
interrupt them. Let them finish their thought. I have a question right now, but maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Maybe they'll come back and let me finish
Explain it all.
what they're explaining. Maybe the answer will be in there. I just haven't heard the answer yet. So let me just hold on to my question. But then that question never gets answered. But then they move on to the educator's moving on to the next topic, and you're like, wait, time out. And now you're
I have a
pausing,
question, right?
right? Or you're like, well, they moved on to the next topic. I guess I can't ask my question. Like in person is weird sometimes.
Right, and then sometimes you forget that question because you're excited at the moment.
And then you forget that question because yeah, exactly. But then when you're watching something, you're like, wait, what the hell did he just say? I do that a lot.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and then you have to rewind, and sometimes, like, online, you can. Well, I don't know about education, but I think there is subtitles or something, and be like, "Oh, that's what he said," or you could just go back, rewind, and listen. Okay, that's what I missed.
I
So
do that a lot
there's
when I'm
pluses
watching
and
something.
minuses. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm constantly rewinding. A lot of the times I'm rewinding because of my own deficiency. I my mind processes puzzles. So if you're showing me something very creative and you're not going into the specific details of where that creativity and that inspiration is coming from, you're
Yeah.
freestyling and free flowing it, then I got to pause, rewind, and rewatch multiple times because I need to deconstruct that creativity or that inspiration, that free flow. I need to deconstruct it and rewatch how the preparation was put together for me to fit it into my puzzle of 1 + 1 = 2, 2 goes to 4, 4 goes to 8, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
So and then I establish creativity because I have some kind of rule set for the way my mind works. Conversely, when I'm watching somebody who is giving it to you in steps and organized in the way that my mind works, I still have to rewind it because I'm like, I'm still trying to deconstruct the way they're presenting their information. Why did you present it that way? I would have said it that way. So we still have our own voice, even though you're
Mhm.
learning in the same style, you're finding an educator who talks to you in the same style of how you like to learn. Everybody has their own voice and their own personality. So you still got to sit there and be like, wait, what the hell did he just say? Because you got to learn their inflection and their intention. And literally, sometimes people literally say what they mean and they mean what they say. Sometimes
Yeah.
people infer what they're meaning behind what they're saying. And you got to kind of learn somebody's personality to be like, yeah, this person talks out of their butt. You just got to kind of figure out what they're saying versus this person's kind of like tries to inject a lot of humor into what they're saying. Or some people are very dry and very intentional with what they say. They're very directed with what they say.
Yeah.
So
Direct. You got to
I
figure out like what's going on.
I don't care. Okay, so for this particular part, I don't care if you're in person or if you're doing online learning. Repetition matters,
Yeah.
and repeating matters, and rewinding and rewatching matters. Stopping and interrupting a presentation might be annoying to some people in the audience who are in person. I've seen a lot of people scoff or roll their eyes or sit there and go like, oh my God, this person's asking another freaking question. I've seen people in the
Yeah, I've
audience do
seen it.
that, right? I've seen that a lot, but it's not the audience member's problem. That is the educator's problem to control
Yeah.
how many questions and how often the program, again, like I was saying earlier, you got to keep the pacing, and it's the educator's position to control how often a question is being asked, how often the pace is getting interrupted, and how to respond to that question to repeat the answer in a way that each time the question is asked or each time the same information is repeated, to build upon the repetition, to always infuse a different angle or some kind of new way of re-answering the same question over and over and over to
Hmm.
bring everybody together.
Yeah, that's fair.
So interesting question, the way you phrase that. But yeah, good question.
Yeah. Then I got another category we could speak of is the networking nightmare.
Network. You've really done your research. What is a networking nightmare?
So we can talk a little bit about like the school relationships, how they become career foundations versus like online communities that are more diverse.
Say it again for the school. The school. What
So
was
school relationships become career foundations versus
school
online
relation?
communities are more diverse.
School relationship becomes career found. Oh, okay. I see where you're going with this. Yeah. It's interesting. It's very interesting because when you go through a program together with somebody else and you're in
Yeah,
person, um, you meet with somebody. Okay, when you're in person, I'm going to pick on you for a moment and I'm going to use myself. I'm going to pick on myself. I'm going to pick on both of us.
oh,
You are not a very competitive person. You just
okay,
like
fair.
hanging out and being part. You're a participation trophy person.
I mean, I don't mind like the competition, but that at the end of the day, I'm like everybody's a winner because at least you tried. Even if you lost, you're a winner. So I know.
You 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 just like hanging out. You just really like hanging out. You don't necessarily care about being in first place.
Right, I'm just having fun. I don't care.
You're having fun. Now, that doesn't mean you cry because you didn't get in first place. You just really don't care about being in first place. You really care about learning and
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
And that's okay. From that perspective, I can respect it, your position, because you're not crying about not being in first place. You just don't care. There are some people who, if they don't get in first place, they do cry about it.
yeah. I know.
So me, on the other hand, I am competitive. If
Hmm.
I don't get in first place, I'm not pissed. Well, I am pissed off that I didn't get in first place, but I want to understand why the person who did get in first place, how did they do it? I'm actually inspired by
That's
the first
valid.
place person. I want to copy that person. I want to capture them. I want to put them in a jar. I want to study how that person, got good so I can get good. See what
That's
I
fair
mean?
enough. Yeah, I get it.
So being in person learning, it kind of pushes you to be the best version of yourself, and then you can kind of build that friendly competition with each other. Bernard
Hmm.
and I do that to each other all the time. He
Yeah,
always wants to impress me by showing off how good he is and what he knows. I always want to impress him by showing off how much I know. He always wants to be the first one there. I always want to be the first one there. I always want to be the last to leave. He's always dragging me out of the room to be like, come on, I just want to leave already. Like we always have that professional.
yeah.
each other, right?
Right.
It just naturally forces us to be the best version of ourselves. So in person, you're like that. Now, I met Bernard because we were in person, and in the room of the dozen or 2 dozen people that were in the room, I liked him. And I spent more time with him because we connected. But
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have an opportunity to connect with other people because I started ignoring other people because I just judged that they didn't warrant my time for whatever dumbass reason. I never gave them a chance. Maybe they could have been the best person in the world. I don't know.
Yeah,
When
you
you're
don't know.
it's a lot more diversity because you're just reading every comment and then you're like, well, okay, I like that comment. Okay, I don't like that comment. But you're online and you're part of the same community. So you're sitting there scrolling through and you're reading the comments and you're like, all right, well, interesting point. I would have never thought about it. But you would have never
Yeah.
known that if you didn't talk to that person or didn't listen to that person talking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's fair. Uh-huh.
So now there's that level of diversity. And then there's another level of diversity. If I travel to a location, I can only be with the other people in the community who travel to that equal location. That location is only going to attract people from a certain radius, which generally speaking is a same region. Whereas online, I can talk to somebody from Australia. I could talk to somebody
Yeah.
from Florida. I can talk to somebody from Canada. They could be in 3 different countries of the world. I'm calling Florida a different country. You know,
The state.
I know Florida is a state.
But yeah, it's almost like if you call Bernard or RJ, they're in Louisiana and you're here in Chicago. So
2 different
it's
regions of the
yeah,
country, of the same country, but different regions. So
right.
you're getting a different perspective than your own bubble, than your
Yeah.
own
Or
local bubble.
like a regional, yeah.
Yeah. So I can appreciate the online diversity.
Yeah.
Now, eh, I don't know. I got to kind of disagree with your statement. I think,
Hmm.
well, okay, I agree and I equally disagree. Both can be diverse and both can feed career foundations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can see that.
yeah. If I say it that way, I can agree with both.
Okay. And and how about how instructors become mentors in person versus online instructors are more accessible.
In person become mentors, in person educators become mentors.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about the human factor. So, at least the way I'm understanding your question is the human factor, meaning when you're in person with somebody, you kind of build a
A
bond
bond with them.
with that person. So there's a certain level of comfort because you got to kind of know the person because you spent physical time. So
Right.
there's a level of intimacy. And I'm not talking about like physical sexy time. I'm talking about
Right.
a
Learning,
psychological and a mental
teaching.
and emotional level of intimacy, of closeness, I guess. I'll use the word closeness instead of intimacy.
That's
Um,
fair.
and so if something goes wrong, or if you have a question, or if you have a concern, your mind subconsciously immediately thinks of the educator, immediately as the go-to for help, for response, for advice. That's that mentorship role. Now then it just becomes a matter of you got to get a hold of that person, you know.
Mhm.
um, do you have time in your day? Does that person have the same time in your day, in your day, and connecting and all that stuff? Whereas online, I could just leave you a message, I can text you, I can, online, talking about the community, the whole community can become your mentorship and become more accessible. Because if you belong to a group, you could just post a question and you're in a group of 1,000 people or 500 people or 10 people. It doesn't matter how many people. You
Yeah.
may want one person in particular to respond to you, but you may get 10 other
Like,
responses that could kind of hold you over until you get the response from the person you were hoping you were going to get a response
yeah,
from.
that's true because depending on how many people are in that group, they like you said, someone could answer. Maybe it's not the person, but maybe they answered your question, and then you want the instructor or mentor to answer too, and then it gives you more confirmation.
And then I'll even reinforce your diversity point from earlier. If
Okay.
it's somebody from a different region, they have a different perspective. What works for them in their area, this is the way they do it. What works for me in my area, this is the way I do it. So now you're going to look at it and you're going to say, well, I have a
Hmm.
client that does like this, and I have a client that does like that. The client that does like that, actually, your way might work for that client. The way he does it, for my client, that way might actually work for that particular client.
Right, and that's a good perspective because some people they don't think of it like that. They're just like, "Oh, okay, I see what you did."
Some stylists
Okay.
have a clientele that's pretty much all the same, but then other stylists have a very diversified clientele that come from all kinds of walks of life and
Yeah.
regions, and countries, and ethnicities, and all that kind of stuff. So, um, yeah, that can work. Um, I, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't
Yes,
know.
that is.
I don't. I'm kind of split. I don't know which one is better or which one's worse. I think
I
you
think
get
I'm like in the middle. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay. How about our other category is the testing disaster? And what I mean by that is that practical exams need physical preparation versus um most failures are written exams. So like some people they're like bad at test taking versus like they could physically do and they know everything that's on the test. They just like are more physical than on a written exam. What do you think about that?
Okay, I got you. Uh, I am not a good person to ask that question because I hate written exams. Uh, I really, really can't stand written exams. So I'll tell you a story and then I'll answer your question. And my story will pretty much, answer your question, right?
Sure.
When I was in beauty school, I was the top of my class. I was the valedictorian of my school. I was literally the number one student of my graduating class. In I broke school records.
Wow.
And I didn't just break school records. I annihilated previous school records. So if somebody had performed, you know, 10 color services, I performed 30 to 40. If somebody did
Okay.
20 haircuts, I did 50 haircuts. Like I was annihilating prior school records. Okay.
Wow.
I hustled like a beast when I was on the floor in beauty school.
Okay.
When it came to theory classes, my test scores, when they were the oral exams, I aced every single one of them. When they were the multiple choice ones, all of a sudden my score started dropping because here's me. Well, to this question, everything with me is situational. So yeah, you're asking
Yeah,
me this
true.
question. Well, in question, in answer B, yeah, it could do this. In answer C, yeah, it could do this too,
Hmm.
but you can only choose one or the other. Well, which one is the book asking for versus which one am I trying to justify? It was a foobar. I was completely foobarred. So I couldn't wrap my mind around what the book wanted the answer to be versus what I thought the answer should be. And I used to fight with my instructors.
Hmm.
When I went to go take my practical exam, when I graduated, you got to take your practical exam and you got to take a written exam. And the written exam
Okay.
is a randomized 100-question test. Bombed it completely. I completely failed it. The
Hmm.
hands-on was no problem. Passed the hands-on. That was easy. And my teacher, my instructor, she knew I was the best in the class. I was the best in the freaking school at that time. She couldn't
Right.
understand why I kept failing the written. So she sits me down. I had failed it twice, three, and they had a 3-strike, you're out. You got to start all over rule.
Wow.
So I failed the
Hmm.
second time. She sits me down and she goes, "Let me ask you a question." So she asked me a question, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's blah 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 blah." She asked me another question, blah 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 blah. She keep asking me questions. I keep answering her, no problem,
Right.
like without hesitation. I'm answering her. She goes, "Why are you an idiot? I'm literally asking you the question from the randomized test that you literally just took, and you got the question wrong." I'm like, it's the multiple choice. I can't. My mind, I can't. I'm not wired for these multiple choices and this memorization crap. I can't do it. I understand the information. I've dissected it. I've deconstructed it. I've committed it to memory. I understand what needs to be done. I know it. But you're asking me to repeat it verbatim? I'm not a freaking parrot. I can't
Huh.
do it, you know? And she's like, "Oh, you're not trying hard enough." I'm like, "Okay, well, then I suck at life. I don't know what to tell you. But I don't have the freaking ability to do it. Not for 100, maybe for 2 questions, but not for 100 freaking questions."
Yeah.
So she gave me the entire written exam verbally without any choice, multiple choices. And I answered every single 100 questions. And that's how she passed me. So in essence, she treated me like an ESL, English as a second language, learning disability tester,
Yeah. Mhm.
and she just read me the questions verbally, and I verbally answered her back, and she just circled in on my behalf the multiple choice, and we were able to get that approved through the state board. Blah 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 blah. Paperwork aside, I passed. That's how I got licensed.
Yeah,
It was
that's amazing how she did that, you
it
know?
was amazing to have an instructor that cared enough to go out of her way to do that for me. And she
Right.
recognized that maybe I'm not disabled, but I had a block, a hurdle, a learning hurdle that I
Yeah,
couldn't
that
get over.
doesn't mean that you're idiot or whatever the case may be. It's like some people they know their stuff how you're saying, and then you give like sometimes even true or false or like you said multiple choice, and then you get like okay, well it could be this or that, and it confuses the heck out of you, and it's like your stuff, but the test makes you a little like, oh gosh, what is really going on here? I can
And
relate to
then
that.
and then there's that too. Like some people know all the information. They can memorize everything and they're like a
Oh
freaking
yeah.
encyclopedia. But then the concept of you are going to be graded, somehow it messes people up in their minds. And the pressure
It's
of
true.
I need to perform. They get what they call that performance anxiety, they call it. And they freak out and they completely freak out from that. So everybody
Mhm.
has their own way of learning
Different
uh,
learning, yeah.
and applying that knowledge. Some people are visual, some people are intellectuals, some people are just doers. Some people are only talkers. It's interesting to see how different levels and degrees trying to standardize a test. This is why they grade on a curve. This is why you don't have to get 100%. This is why you only need to get whatever it is, 50%, 60%, 70% correct. You
Mhm.
don't you never have to get 100% to pass. And then a lot of other tests are moving to either straight up pass fail. You don't even have to score. You just have
Yeah.
to hit whatever the requirement is and you just pass automatically. And then you don't even have to take the rest of the test. You just get a certain percentage correct. They're trying to update and change the way we measure knowledge.
Yeah.
Because even the IQ test, I forgot there's that special society that if you have a certain level of IQ, you get into that special society. I forgot what it is, but even that, I forgot the name of that society, but even them, they say their test only measures a certain way of thinking IQ. It doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't belong to that society, you're not part of the smartest people in the entire world. Case in point, I don't know why I do this, but I show you these videos sometimes. I watch those speed chess, like you play chess, the board game.
Yeah, I know the game. Yeah.
So I watch those shorts, and they have those grandmasters just going to the park and playing people, the regular people, the local people at the park. And they're like, oh, what are you ranked? I'm ranked 2,400. I'm ranked, whatever their ranking system is. And some of the grandmaster chess players get their asses handed to them by some of these local dudes who hustle at the park.
Yeah, that is pretty funny. Like, yeah.
And it's hilarious to watch it because they're like, whoa, you see this grandmaster chess player that wins all these tournaments, and just some local person is like, well, I hit you with this, because it's a variable that they throw in, a wild card way of approaching a situation, a problem, and a solution that they are just not used to, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa. And that's what I love about, one of the things I love about being an educator is it's challenging because I never know who I'm going to be working with today or tomorrow.
Correct.
What level they're at in their learning and how much they know. And I have to constantly readjust to deal with whatever their approach is to trying to perform the service, whether it's hair extensions, a haircut, a blow dry, a keratin smoothing treatment, a hair color service,
whichever class,
right? I have to see their way of thinking. I have to match it against the way the service should be performed for the way we decided it needs to be performed per manufacturer intention. And then I got to marry the two together. And I'll tell you what, there's been times where I've seen a student, when I say student, I'm just not talking about beauty school student. I'm talking about a stylist who's attending a class that has 20, 30 years or 10, 5, 15.
Yeah, whatever experience.
The way they approach a service has been so fascinating that we have worked with that stylist to develop their way of doing, more, to expand it out. And then we've adopted it and we've made that the new way moving forward. Like we've taken that person's approach, went to the manufacturer and said, hey, we just saw it done this way. This way works way better for your service, in our opinion. Take it back to R&D, deconstruct it, and then rebuild it and put it back together and put it against the manufacturer direction versus the the practical application, and redefine, marry those two together, make them have bebe, and redefine how the new way of teaching is going to be. And it's amazing. It's amazing how, think about all the things we do in life and the reason why we do them now the way we do them. Most of the things that we have discovered were a byproduct of somebody trying to do something else who made a mistake. They were trying to do this, they goofed.
Right, something else happened, but then they learned from it.
And they're like, whoa, now we got this thing, and I didn't expect this to happen or want this to happen, but guess what? We're going to take this and use it over here for that, and this thing is freaking, you know what? Forget about my original idea altogether. This is cool.
Yeah, this is way better.
Just think about how many things in life we have that we do today that were spawned from a mistake that happened somewhere else in history.
Yeah. There's a lot.
But it's a lot of it. And that's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. So different, practical experience or practical exam grading versus testing, written testing, grading. Bernard and I talk about this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to learn is to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Practice on a mannequin head, practice on a friend, or practice on somebody that you don't like and you don't care if they don't talk to you no more.
Ah,
Excuse me.
Daddy.
Practice on a family member who judges you all the time anyways, and no matter what you do, they don't like you. They're always going to complain. At least it'll give them something to complain about instead of complaining about everything. I don't care who you practice on or what you practice on, but you have to apply the knowledge that you receive and learn to commit it to memory. You have to repeat that knowledge mentally and physically. There is an expression in particular that we use in the beauty industry. Commit it to muscle memory, commit it to your hands. Your hands will remember what to do before your brain remembers what to do. And a lot of the time in class, I'll see a stylist start to perform the service that we're teaching them. And in the beginning, they'll be doing it very well. And then halfway through the section, towards the middle of the section, because we got to do the whole mannequin head, or we got to do. They'll start off doing it correctly, and then halfway through the mannequin or halfway through the model, they'll start doing it incorrectly. It's like a degenerative return. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing? And I say girl, most stylists are female, but I'll say like, well, what's going on? She goes, well, I don't know. I think I'm overthinking it. I'm like, 100%, your hands, because then I'll observe and I'll watch them and she'll be doing it correctly. And her hands are going exactly where they need to go. And then all of a sudden you'll see the exact moment that her brain kicks in. Her hands are doing the action and then it'll start shivering and then she'll just start losing herself. And I'm like, oh, your brain kicked in. You're starting to think. Stop thinking. Turn your brain off. Just let your hands and your body do what you know to do, what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Start overthinking. I'm a perfectionist. I'm a this. I'm a that. Should I this? Should I that? Who freaking cares? Just do. Don't worry about should I, would I, could I. Just do it. You know? And that's the whole thing. It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge, huge difference. I mean, jokingly, I'll tell you this. And any stylist listening to this can put a comment too and attest to this. If they want to call, I'll call myself out. I don't care. Especially when I was younger. I'm smarter now, so I don't do it. But I can tell you how many times in my 20s, we wouldn't even come in hungover. We would literally come in straight from the bar. So we'd be drinking. It'd be 5 o'clock in the morning. And the bar would still be open because whatever, it was an after hours bar, or we convinced and bribed the bartender to keep it open, or whatever the hell the situation was. We'd be drinking. The alarm would go off. It's 5 o'clock. I'm like, crap. I have a 7:30 freaking appointment at the salon. We're still in our same clothes doing the walk of shame. I mean, at least everybody smoked back then. So everybody smelled. So you couldn't really, the BO didn't matter. Oh
my God, this is insane.
We'd go to a drive-through or we'd go to a diner real quick, scarf down some eggs, and then have a shot or have a Bloody Mary or whatever still alcohol for breakfast. We'd show up to the salon. We're still drunk off our rockers. We're not even hungover. We're not even had a chance to be hungover yet. And we'd be banging out hair services one after another. And then, it's like 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8, we booked on the half hour, 15 minutes back then. So we'd just be pounding them out one after another. By noon, your drunkenness starts wearing off and you start buzzing and you start getting hungover and you start becoming conscious and going, where am I? How did I get here?
Oh my God.
Who did I just do 7 clients? Like, I need to call them and follow up with them and see what happened. And you'd call them up and you'd be like, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, I'm just following up with you, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh my God, you were so hyper in the morning. You were like a shot of caffeine for me. Thank you so much. That was so much fun. I'm like, I'm always going to come early in the morning now. I didn't know you're such a morning person. I'm like, oh, I was just I have no idea what we talked about, and you're hoping you didn't say anything off color. And then the next time they come in, they're like, I love what you did last time. Do it again. Like, I have no idea what I did because your body remembered what to do when your brain was dysfunctional.
Yeah.
Terrible example. I call myself out. Like I said, I'm smarter now. I don't do like that no more.
Yeah.
Very dangerous to do like that. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, not recommend it.
I don't recommend it. I didn't, we knew better back then, but we still did it because we were dumb and young. And anyways, as it goes, that's how I'll answer that one. So I'll
That's
just
fair
conclude
enough.
it with telling you this way,
Yeah.
whether it's in person, whether it's online education, I think they both have their merits. I think they
Yep,
both have their pluses. I think they both have their minuses.
I
I think they both
agree.
need each other. I can tell you, come in person and learn something, and then use online education as your reference guide. And I can tell you the other way. Start with online education, learn at your own pace, make your mistakes, practice whatever, and then come in for in-person education and do like a refresh or a follow-up, or consolidate what you learned, and equally do both. Do a combination of both. I don't
Yeah,
think you should only do one over the other. I don't think one is better than the other. I think both of them in tandem with each other, in concert with each other, it creates a very solid foundation for learning.
yep, it's two different learning styles.
They're two different learning styles, and I think they both
They both
complement
work.
each other. Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, I think they both work very well. So
Yeah, I agree.
that's awesome. That's very, very awesome. So thanks for joining us today, Carmelina. That's
Yeah, you
appreciate
absolutely.
And yeah, let us know, all of you, what you think. Online, in person, both. Were you dumb and came in drunk and hungover and still did a client? Does your hands remember better what to do because you had a headache or you didn't feel good?
Oh,
Thanks for watching. Be profitable, stay profitable. We'll catch you next week.